Hey guys, welcome back. Where I want to talk about why leaving the United States might not fix your problems. Okay, and I've been talking about this kind of off and on the channel. So when I left the U.S., which is kind of weird because it's just right there, um, I I left because I saw what was going on and I saw the wave of doom coming. But I didn't leave because I was out of money or I exhausted all my options or I exhausted my credit or I bailed on my lease or any of these things. I just saw what was coming and I decided to make a plan. And I think if you're planning on leaving the United States, whether it's living down here in Tijuana beaches or it is doing anything, you need to have an action plan. And what an action plan is with me was I said, I'm going to go down there, I'm going to check it out, I'm going to look at various places, and I'm going to try crossing the border a few times to see if it's something that I can do. And then, given my background, see if I can locate employment in San Diego and then be able to live this kind of cross-border lifestyle. And again, like I said, San Diego is just right over there. So it's a little bit different dynamic, but I think a lot of people make this mistake when they move farther away than I do to foreign places where they don't have a car, they don't have a way of making money. They go with just a little bit of money and they say it's just going to work itself out. And sometimes it does. Sometimes people, these go-lucky people do end up in situations where they can be put in front of any circumstance or any dilemma, and it works itself out. But if it doesn't, and what you hear a lot of times is you hear of people moving to these exotic places, outside the US, and then after a few months moving back. And at least that's what I've seen, kind of a localized trend on YouTube with the expat community and just people that, try this out, right? So it makes sense to examine it a little bit further. So when I moved down here, I made some mistakes. My initial move down here. First, I got a place that was too big. I got a place that was a little far, and I didn't really do enough research on the area. And then I didn't also think about, other things that were going to come up. And I made some mistakes, right? I haven't always lived right here. I used to live farther down, and I used to have an electric car. Don't have that anymore. So, I had to start putting petroleum back into my car, and it changed the dynamic of a lot of different things. And it wasn't just that, but I'm just giving you a couple things so you guys can resonate that moving down here has been challenging as well, right? It took me some time to navigate. It took me some time to get acclimated to my surroundings and then figure out how to dominate that schedule. When I first moved down here, the gym I was going to didn't have really what I wanted, so I wasn't working out. I mean, there's a lot of things that I encountered moving down here that, had I been more strategically planned, I would have been able to, navigate these a little bit more efficiently. But that was then, this is now. So all I can do now is I can tell you people that are watching the channel that moving out of the U.S. is not necessarily going to fix your problems unless your main problem is you just want to leave. Okay, and let me explain further. So if you have a big bag of money or you have a big bag of savings or a huge investment portfolio, then I think you'll be all right wherever you go. I mean, in the US, wherever. But if you are, I get a lot of people on the channel that I feel like, and they don't openly say it because nobody likes openly admitting that they're basically broke or insolvent. But I think a lot of people in the Southern California area that are trying this maybe considering this Tijuana move like I've done, I think they're coming from a powerless position, meaning they're to the breaking point of not being able to afford rent. They are to the breaking point of exhausting all their credit, exhausting all their savings, exhausting every dollar in their account, and they think that Tijuana is just going to be some cheap fix where they're just going to move down here with no money and things are just going to work out. I would say if you're going that route, that probably will end up pretty bad. You'll probably end up having to leave. It won't work out. And I don't recommend doing that whatsoever. Because when you try to come down here and get housing, for one, they're going to want to see a lot of reserves. Like when I moved down here, I had a lot of, I had a lot of portfolio exposure that was really high at the time. And, on paper, I looked like a really good candidate for a rental. If you come down here and you're trying to think that these people down here are just, retarded in Mexico, the landlords and stuff, they're not. They're going to cross-reference things that you put in there, and they're going to look at your check statements. They're going to look about how much money you're spending a month. And, you're going to be, if you look like you're insolvent, you're not even going to get a place. You're not even be able to get rental, a place down here. So I wouldn't recommend coming down here with no reserves. What is a good amount to come down here, like a starter amount? I would say I wouldn't feel comfortable coming down here without a car. So I would definitely say you want to have a car, but I would also not recommend coming down with like less than like $5,000. I mean, that would be the bare minimum, guys. I mean, I had much more than this to give you an idea of my starting point, because I don't want to mislead people here on the channel. If people think I came down here with a hope and dream to live in Tijuana and it's just worked out perfectly for me, I had problems coming down here. I've encountered problems while I've been down here. I got ripped off on all my appliances. There's a lot of stuff that if I could do over, I would have done over again. And who wouldn't, right? I mean, who wouldn't, right? So my point is if you're thinking about living abroad, you're thinking about moving down here, Playas de Tijuana or Tijuana in general, you're going to have reserves. I mean, I would say if you don't have a job, they're probably, if you're getting a $1,200-$1,300 a month place, they're going to want to see 5,000 or 6,000 minimum. Okay. And that's minimum. Okay. And I don't even know if that would get you in the door if you don't have a job. I'm just saying, you got to have a plan, right? We can sit here and cherry pick the numbers all day, but you got to have a plan. If you just move down to somewhere with no plan, yeah, you'll survive. It'll probably work out okay, but you probably won't, you're going to encounter some issues, right? You're going to have, if you're moving down to San Diego without, moving to Tijuana without a job in San Diego, that would be kind of a predicament that might not be good. Maybe depending on what kind of job you're willing to take or what you're wanting to do, you might not be able to just walk into the job market and get any job. You might have to take a temporary job that you might not necessarily like until you can, get to where you want to be in another type of a job or employment or something like that. So these are just things to keep in mind, right? Like if you're thinking about moving, and I think people also, when they move to like Thailand or Vietnam with like $2,000 or $3,000 in the bank, I mean, I would never consider doing that. For me, that's far too risky to move to a place like, and then not have any type of medical for medical emergency or things like that. There's just too many things that can go wrong. So I would say if you're considering moving abroad, definitely make sure that you have a plan, even if it's just right over that border. I kind of was like, I wouldn't say lucky, but I had somewhat of a plan. I was able to strategically kind of place myself in an area that had a company that I'd previously worked for, and I was able to land a job fairly easily. So, if you're in a business where your job can be relocated to San Diego, or you can maybe get your foot in the door at another place like I did, that's one option. But I would, I can't stress enough, like if you're trying to move down to Tijuana with no plan, it's probably not going to end up the best for you, honestly. Like I would make sure that you have some type of reserve, some type of plan. Make sure that you're able to navigate kind of the language barrier enough to move around logistically, and kind of just come down here. I tell people, if they're really serious about coming down here, come down here and check it out. Rent a hotel for a week or two and just see what it's really like. Because it's not all that much different from over there. I mean, it's literally, it's just a city with a metro area, right? So it's, a lot of people are driven down here because of the prices, right? But like, you got to make sure that you have all your I's dotted and your T's crossed before you make like a giant move of just, giving up wherever you're at, and then, moving down here. I mean, if you're in Southern California, you probably already have somewhat of a better idea. But if you're moving from other areas of the U.S., California is already a pretty big culture shock compared to most states. I mean, you know, if you're in Oregon or Arizona, maybe not so much, or Nevada, but like California is drastically different from like the East Coast. So when you're coming to California, you're already getting that culture shock, and then you're coming down to Tijuana. It might not be, you know, it might not be what you're ready for. So I'm just saying, like, you want to be ready for what you're doing. So I recommend people coming down here for, you know, a week or two or a month, you know, get a temporary rental, try it out. And then if it's something you really want to do, make the move. Like if I came down here for a month, I probably would have chose the area that I'm currently at rather than going farther south, and just kind of being sold on this private, you know, country club type lifestyle that I really didn't end up needing or really wanting, given the scenario that I was currently in. So, right, you learn these things. So I'm trying to give you guys kind of a heads up on, you know, some of the problems that I've encountered, and, you know, how you can avoid these type of issues if you are considering moving down to Tijuana or Tijuana beaches, or really anywhere abroad. I think it definitely applies to all the above. All right, I'll catch you guys soon. Take care.